Hey everyone, this is Ryan, the host of the Coffee People and Coffee Smarter podcasts. We don't get to put on these shows without the support of our presenting sponsor, Roastery Coffee Packaging, based in Wisconsin. You can find them online at roastery.com, and they print great-looking coffee bags for companies big, small, and everywhere in between. They even print small batches for home roasters. So if you're out there and you're wanting to share your coffee with friends and family, your coffee community, head to roastery.com, where you can jump on their design lab and create an entirely new package design in the blink of an eye. You'll find it on roastery.com. Now, on to the show. And here we go.
Okay.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Coffee People podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Woldt. The show is presented by Roastery Coffee Packaging, and it's part of the Roast West Coast Coffee Network. Go to roastwestcoast.com to find recaps of this show, our Coffee Smarter podcast, and so much more. On this show, we connect with guests who have some connection to the coffee industry, and we share their stories. Sometimes we talk about entrepreneurship, or inspiration, or art. Sometimes we talk about the community of coffee, and we usually do it with a great cup of coffee. Today I'm drinking decaf, actually. This bag of Guatemala was given to me by friends of the show at Camp Coffee Company, a lovely little shop in downtown Oceanside, California, and was roasted by Bird Rock Coffee. Most relevant to the episode today is that this decaf was processed by Swiss Water Decaf up in Vancouver, Canada, and it is very likely that it was originally cupped by today's guest, Stacey Lynden. Stacey has at times been a barista, a coffee roaster, and long been a competitor on various coffee circuits. Today, she's the cupping lab manager at Swiss Water Decaf, and we're going to talk a little bit about her illustrious career, how her relationship with coffee and the industry at large has changed, and a bit on how the decaffeination process works. While you're listening today, be sure to click on the links in this podcast show notes. You'll find direct ones to Stacey's Instagram, the Swiss Water Decaf website, and of course, our newsletter that lives online at roastwestcoast.com. Back to the coffee, I brewed this Guatemala as a French press, and it's quite lovely on its own. And as the temperatures have begun cratering after dark here in Southern California, it has become a daily meditation for me to brew up a pot of decaf and make our home feel just a little bit cozier. And I hope that you're bundled up with your hands around a lovely mug of coffee too, because it is time for another Coffee People conversation. This one featuring Stacey Lynden, Q Grader, Hall of Famer, and cupping lab manager at Swiss Water Decaf.
Hello, my name is Stacey Lynden, and I am the cupping lab manager for Swiss Water Decaf Coffee Incorporated. I take care of all of the coffee that comes in and out of Swiss Water. Our team is responsible for cupping all of our pre-shipment samples, all of our arrival samples, and then all of the coffees that Swiss Water produces as well.
So just like a tiny little thing that you're doing.
Just a tiny thing, yeah.
You didn't mention it, but you're also a certified Q grader. You're a competitor. You've got all these other things we're going to get into.
Yes.
But I have to start with the most important question, which is, do you have a favorite Keanu Reeves movie?
Do I have a favorite Keanu Reeves movie? Speed.
It's a good one.
It's a good one.
Everyone goes to the classics with Keanu, and I'm not sure why that is, but he just started off so strong and so handsome.
He did. I mean, Point Break is also fantastic. Oh, it's a toughie. There's so many. Now I'm like, oh, okay.
I always feel like that Desert Island movie question should just be Desert Island Keanu movie, because it's more challenging and more specific, and you have to really dig into it. We are here because of coffee. It's what connects us. I'm wondering a little bit about your background. Do you have a first coffee memory, a first coffee experience that you remember that kind of started you down this path?
I mean, I don't have the memory per se, but it's definitely a story that my parents like to tell. is that basically I've been a coffee addict since birth, or well, since like toddlerism. So, when you go to like a restaurant and you have the little creamers, so
Yeah,
they would put
I do.
that into their coffee, but I would ask them to put coffee into the empty creamers for me. So I've been drinking coffee since I was like a toddler.
My little brother used to sneak into the kitchen at our restaurant, our family restaurant, when he was a toddler and steal those creamers. And we'd find these empty creamer things all over the building that he had stolen and was drinking. Before Swiss Water, you had kind of a career and a journey to get there.
Yes.
I'm going to let you kind of get into that. How did your coffee career get started? And kind of what was that path leading you to where you are now?
Long ago, I started working as just like, I guess, in like a bakery cafe. So, like, coffee was definitely the side thing. Also, I mean, this was probably still second wave time. So, not particularly, you know, the type of coffee that we're drinking in specialty cafes today. So I started doing that. Then I moved on to an actual coffee shop after that. Still very, very second wave. Flavored coffees, a pump pot of light, medium, dark, decaf, and flavored, plus an espresso bar. So actually, I'm not going to lie, but at that time, like I was 17, 16, so flavored coffees were super fun. So I would be able to like dump, and again, like a portion pack, just to make it even better, like a portion pack of like Dutch chocolate and a portion
Mm.
pack of orange. And then I'd have orange chocolate coffee. And well, as a teenager, that was delicious, right? Because honestly, coffee wasn't that tasty.
I think that actually sounds kind of good. Like if I were by a campfire, I'd be all about it. I wonder, as you're saying it, I'm imagining the characters on Friends getting coffee, and I think
Yes,
they kind of like made that super big poofy whipped cream flavor thing like just in the background of that show
yes.
normalized.
Pretty normalized. I mean, that's kind of the vibe I think you would have gotten at this coffee shop for sure. After that, I started working at a coffee shop owned by a company out here called Salt Spring Coffee Company. So we're moving into like organic, fair trade, single origin. So kind of like moving more towards like, yeah.
Was that intentional for you to go to some place like that, or was it just sort of like, hey, here's a new job in coffee and I have coffee on my resume?
It was kind of, for me at that point, it was definitely more customer service oriented. Like I liked that side a lot more. I liked getting to know my regulars. That was kind of the more important thing for me was having a job that allowed me to be like in the community, and just like being a part of the community and hanging out with people pretty much, right? Like just hanging out, serving coffee, cleaning up some dishes, but just spending time with different people like in the community that I was living in. And then it was just kind of by chance that I decided I wanted to progress a little bit more in coffee. So I did that. I was there for quite a while. And then during this time, I graduated from university. So I did that for a little while as well. I have a degree in anthropology. So I did some anthropologist stuff. And then during a work break, there was kind of like the first third wave high end specialty coffee shop opening where I was from. I didn't have a job. They were like, "Do you want to come in and manage this shop for us for a little while?" I said, "Sure." I did that. And then I started competing.
Right.
And that is kind of what really drew me into like the specialty coffee community. I made it to nationals for barista competition on my first go, and I think that was a huge like eye opener. So I come from a very small town, so actually kind of seeing like everything that the Canadian coffee community had, and like there was so much more outside of like what I was doing. So that's, I think, what really started my journey in specialty coffee.
Hmm.
Was, yeah, kind of doing my first competition.
Was there a reason you decided to do that first competition? It seems like kind of a big jump from, hey, I'm hospitality forward to like, oh, I'm going to go up on stage because there's a definite, is there a performer in you that just had to come out or what was the impetus?
I played a lot of sports growing up.
Mm.
And as you grow up, there's less time for sports. Also, your body is just like, oh, I don't know about this. Also kind of becomes part of that. So competition gave me that outlet. Like coffee competition gave me that kind of competitive outlet. And you have a team and you're working with a team. Like you're competing, you're meeting like other competitors. So it's really, to me, competition is like coffee sports, right?
Oh,
Is
yeah.
more the way I see it. And then I get to like after an event, I get to go out, and usually have drinks with these people and talk. Like, for example, the roasting competition, there was an event, I met you, etc. Right? So
I think that's a really interesting thing you just brought up, which is competitive outlets as an adult. As kids, there are all kinds of opportunities for you if you want to be competitive, and it's encouraged, it's, available in school. And then all of a sudden you're out in the world and you're probably working or trying to survive. And if you're not like going to like a local gym or something and like actively getting into it, there are less opportunities for that. And as you break down physically, as I have, and I'm sure other people have, or maybe just don't quite have the same oomph as you did, it becomes harder and harder to get that same thrill is the wrong word, but same competitive outlook. I've tried to find that in various careers without a lot of success, and I think it's cool that you're saying you did find some of that outlet to fill that niche. You mentioned you had started working in specialty a little bit there before that competition. When you come back from that first big competition and you see this bigger world, how did that expand your worldview as far as your career is going?
well, I guess it had a pretty big impact. So after that, I guess after that, a customer of mine asked me if I had ever thought about roasting. And honestly, the answer at that time was no, not really. Like, I'm just kind of doing this thing. It's fun. I like it. And he was like, you should go meet a friend of mine. He roasts at this nonprofit social enterprise every, I think it was Monday morning. Just go knock on the door and say hello. So I did that. I went down into the city and I knocked on the door, and there's a man in the background and he's roasting coffee. I have no idea who he is or what he does or anything. And I'm like, hi, I'm Stacey. I sit on the dishwasher in the back room, like just kind of watching him roast and like talking. I have no idea that he's like, a roasting teacher. He fixes most of the roasters, across North America. I have no idea who he is, like as far as like how many accolades he has and how talented he is. He's this really nice guy. And I'm sitting there listening to him talk about roasting. And eventually he's like, oh, do you want to put a load in? And that's kind of how it all started. And then I got asked if I wanted to come back the next week. And I did. And I also kind of ended up roasting a little bit there. It's a nonprofit social enterprise called East Van Coffee Roasters. It helps women get out of at-risk situations and get back into the regular workforce. So they did kind of want a woman roasting because there's a lot of situations where they're just not comfortable with men around, right?
Sure.
So, but there was just nobody to roast at that time. So I just kind of fell into that role for a little while, helped out with their barista program, more volunteering, but also learning how to roast totally for free, which was really great. And then after that, there was an opportunity to apply to roast at this kind of macro roaster. So I did that. I got the job. I ended up roasting like 2 million pounds of coffee a year for a couple of years.
Wow.
I realized I totally hated that. I learned a lot, but I hated it. Learned so much, but just not for me. After that, I ended up working for a specialty coffee shop in Vancouver called Palette. Then after that, I went even smaller. and opened up a small coffee shop just as COVID was starting called Harkin. And that unfortunately, due to COVID and just like, we're going to open, this thing should only last 2 weeks. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but definitely didn't last 2 weeks.
I think we all remember that time.
Right?
A little bit off topic. Is Palette still open?
Oh, yeah.
I
Palette
think
is
I've
still
been to
open.
Palette and my one visit to the wonderful city of Vancouver. So Harkin closes, and how do you get from there to Swiss Water?
My supervisor messaged me on Instagram, actually,
Right.
as you do. And he's
Sure.
just like, well, we're looking for a cupping lab manager. Do you know anybody? And I had kind of seen the writing on the wall already. And I was like, yeah, I know somebody. Hello, pick me. That's kind of how it all happened.
I like that you were advocating for yourself. I also was kind of hoping, against hope, that when you went to that first kind of roasting session with the unknown gentleman, that it was going to turn out to be Keanu Reeves. Um, so you have this experience. You've been roasting. I mean, we went over it really quickly, but I mean, it was a lot of practice and a lot of experience, obviously, with the big macro roaster, and then moving into Swiss Water. What was the difference, or is there a difference for you in going from roasting everyday coffee to decaf specifically? I
Yeah,
mean, how does that
definitely.
change your process, if it does?
I mean, we roast a lot of regular coffee here as well,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, because we roast all the pre-shipments, we roast all of the arrival samples, and then when we're evaluating decaf coffee, we're actually always cupping it next to the original. So we're looking for like how alike the coffees are, rather than giving it like a cupping score, for example, because we don't want to change the profile. We just want to know that it's as close to the original product as possible. But decaf definitely roasts different. I think really important things to pay attention to are like your data. Like if you have software, huge advantage. And then also just like your probes as well are super important when you're roasting decaf, is you really need to trust your machine. You need to know that everything is working properly, because a lot of the time decaf is a little bit darker. This can be, at least for Swiss water, it's because it's soaked in green coffee extract, which
Mm-hmm.
is all the water soluble compounds found in coffee minus the caffeine, and it's darker. So it kind of just imparts a little bit of color onto the bean. So it can obviously, if you've ever roasted decaf, you'll notice that it is a little bit darker, even if you're roasting it relatively light.
Interesting. Just to clarify for anyone listening that maybe isn't familiar with the Swiss Water process, how would you describe it to someone in an elevator that's like, I don't understand what you're talking about?
We are soaking caffeinated coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first we soak it in hot water and it doubles in size. Then we put it into green coffee extract, which is all
Mm-hmm.
the water soluble compounds found in coffee minus the caffeine. Then what happens is, through osmosis, that green coffee extract pulls the caffeine out of the coffee. When the coffee becomes 99.9% caffeine free, we remove it from the GCE. We put it through dryers until it comes back down to 11 to 10% moisture. So, what a normal moisture that a normal coffee bean would be at.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we reuse the GCE. So, we run that through carbon filters to get rid of all the caffeine. This facility is chemical free and organic, so we do not reuse the caffeine, because in order to do that, we would have to use chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, we just burn off the caffeine, we reuse the carbon filters, and we reuse the GCE. So essentially, we are just using water.
I didn't know that last part about chemical free,
Yeah.
actually, or didn't remember it. If anyone's listening wants to know more, I'll share links and things to Swiss Water, and also we did a show on this a couple seasons ago. I'll make sure that's up there as well. There seems to be a burgeoning demand for decaf. I'm seeing specialty decaf roasters and, people that are considering decaf as an alternative for various reasons, whether it's as an additive to their coffee drinking. I've already had my 2 cups and now I want a third. Or if it's as a replacement for caffeine. I recently chatted with a gentleman, Matthew Torres from Familiar Coffee, who's focused only on specialty. Why do you think this demand is increasing, and how has that changed things for you?
I think we need to remember that like decaf customers are your best customers. They are people who are drinking coffee purely because they enjoy coffee, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they're not getting the caffeine kick. It's not, I have to, maybe there's a placebo effect for some people now, but, the whole reason that you're drinking coffee or decaf coffee is just because you enjoy coffee. And I think that now maybe consumers are starting to speak up, or maybe, we're starting to realize that decaf doesn't need to be an afterthought. It can be really delicious, and why not work towards that? I think there's certain producers that have done really cool things, which have kind of led that, path forward here as well. There's always been a pretty passionate, at least core group of specialty coffee people here. There's a small batch series line, which always has like super awesome coffees. So sometimes I think also people may not have known to look either, that these options are here. And now people are starting to look as well. Also, I think the, non-alcoholic movement has also really kind of helped in this, as we're seeing that people want to enjoy flavors.
Mm.
Like sometimes you don't want to keep drinking, but do you really want like a cranberry soda with lime, or like a
Sure.
Shirley Temple? I don't know, but it's nice to be able to have like a complex non-alcoholic beverage, right?
Yeah.
So I think that we're seeing this in bars, and I think that's also inspiring as well. Is why can't we have, a complex, flavorful, non-caffeinated pour over? Why can't that be an option?
I mean, I don't know the answer, but I do think like customer demand is certainly part of it. I mean, I'm guilty of having a lowered expectation for decaf, I think, over time. I've become a big decaf drinker over the last couple of years, especially in the afternoons. And I think for a long time, I just didn't think of coffee as something I had outside of the mornings. And that has certainly shifted in recent years. But I'm not drinking, even though I don't get a lot of impact or effect from caffeine, I still don't drink it in the afternoon just because I'm old now. And you're not supposed to.
Mhm.
A decaf coffee actually won the 2024 Brewers Cup this year. How big of a
Yes.
deal is that?
I mean, it's a huge deal, and my coffee is fantastic. I've had the opportunity to drink it at Blendon multiple times. It's so good, and I think that it just, again, just solidifies that uh, theory. I guess, that like people are realizing that decaf can be delicious. And I think that this just kind of shows the world, right? Like decaf just won a national competition. I do think that the technology to create that particular decaf too is just so cool. Being able to decaffeinate a coffee at origin, and also before a coffee is dried. It's just showing that like people are trying to push decaf forward, right? We're trying to find different ways to make decaf better. So there's so many cool things to do with that coffee in particular.
I was thinking, as we were chatting before, you mentioned that the East Van group that you kind of got your start roasting at. And you mentioned they were looking in particular for a woman to be the roaster because of the group that they were representing and supporting. How do you feel about being a woman in a role like you're in and someone who's had as much success as you had? Does that matter to you? Is that something you find that other people have come up to you and said, I saw you doing this and it inspired me? Do you have any reflections on that? And I say that in part because a lot of women that have been on this show have commented on how they didn't see a lot of role models in their path, or they didn't know how to connect with other role models. And, maybe there's something there that you could chat to.
Yeah, definitely. I think, especially when I first started, I felt, I now I know there were other women roasters, but at the time I felt like there were none. I've had conversations with other women that I have met throughout my career. And I mean, Canada's so big, and it's so spread out. So it's hard to get across, right? So we were kind of just dispersed all the way across the country, and it's like, how am I supposed to know that there's somebody in Montreal feeling exactly the same way? But again, through competition, I've had the opportunity to meet these people, and we've shared our stories and just had these kind of connections of like, hey, I felt like that too. One time, it would have been my first time at nationals for barista competition. It was just so big compared to like what I was used to, and I was there with my mom. So, you see all these like competitors with teams and all this stuff, and it's me and my mom. And I got up on stage, and like it was packed, and I was like the last person of the day, and it was a lot of stuff going on, right? And you kind of have that moment, and you're like, oh my God, maybe I just leave, and my mom's gonna love me. She has to. And I'm kind of like standing up there, and there's this woman judging me, and I do my routine, etc. But I was like obviously pretty nervous. Finished, did all that stuff. It's done. We met a few years later again, and we kind of stayed like sort of friends. But she was judging the Canadian AeroPress Championships, and I was competing. And then afterwards, we had this conversation, and she was like an amazing barista competitor by that time, like second place at nationals, like fantastic. But at the time I was competing, she was just judging. And she's like, it was you who inspired me to compete. I could see that you were nervous, but you were like, I'm going to do this, and she's like, well, if she can do it, I can do it.
You were entered into the Golden Bean Hall of Fame.
I
So
was.
do you introduce yourself as Hall of Famer Stacey Lynden now, or how do you let people know that you are in a Hall of Fame? I suppose the better question is, and not to put you on the spot, is what does that mean to you to be recognized for the things that you've been doing over the past decade?
Well, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think, but I've been involved in Golden Bean for over a decade now, which is crazy. I've been doing coffee for over 2 decades now, which is also crazy. It was a pretty big surprise for me. I'm very close with the Golden Bean team. Couldn't believe that they had like got it past me without my figuring it out as well. I mean, it's humbling for sure. I mean, I don't do it for the awards. I can't even say that I compete to win. I compete because it's just what I like to do. And everything else is just an added bonus. I think like the real accomplishments and like the real winning is just I've had the opportunity to connect with so many people, and I've been asked to be a part of their teams as well. And I think kind of the real reward has been being having the opportunity to coach and work with competitors as well. And I think that just kind of makes me a stronger competitor, and just coffee person in general. And it helps push these people forward as well.
You won the Canadian Coffee and Good Spirits Championship recently. Congratulations,
Thank you.
2024. Coffee is already really complex, and then when you add putting other things into it, it takes on another level. How do you approach kind of that alchemy, that mixing alcohol and coffee together? Is it just like, oh, here's flavors, or is there something that about it that makes it interesting for you?
I always really liked signature drinks. And like I was telling you, like I think it started a long time ago. by like throwing different portion packs together. And I think also just starting in specialty coffee. Well, I guess before specialty coffee, like again, coffee didn't taste great. So you had to do other things to make the drink taste good. And if I served myself a shot of espresso that I had pulled over 20 years ago, like I don't even know what I would do right now.
I feel the same way. I actually didn't even remember this, but I was technically a barista at a restaurant in Madison, Wisconsin for a bit. It was also a bar, and I was a bartender. And I think about some of the shots that I pulled with no training or understanding of what I was doing or even
It's too
measuring.
funny.
And I just think, oh, those people, I should like apologize and give them money back or something.
Yeah. I think kind of started there with like just making like fun drinks, and I really enjoyed again doing that kind of stuff, or like having customers come in and be like, "Oh, can you make me like, that fancy latte you made me that one time?" Or so I've just really always enjoyed making signature drinks, and that was kind of my favorite part of barista competition, but I just never wanted to do barista competition ever again. Um, so SIGs gave me an opportunity to kind of take my favorite parts of competition. I also compete in Barista League, where we make like a signature drink as well, which is one of my favorite parts. So it gave me another opportunity to just kind of work on that one part of those competitions that I really enjoyed, and just kind of focus it all into one space. And then the neighborhood that I live in Vancouver, is the brewery distillery neighborhood. So I'm very fortunate that way as well, that I've lived in a neighborhood that's full of creative people doing really cool things. So that was, I was like, okay, well, if I can like take this part of my neighborhood and then mesh it together with coffee and then talk about it and share, like what I love about like the people who are doing great stuff in my neighborhood, the producers I think who are doing great stuff, I just get to share this cool information about people who I think are doing great things.
Well, that's a lot of what I find valuable about coffee is the story. And obviously, I want it to taste good, but there's this whole other part of it of what you've been kind of speaking to about the community of it. If you scroll through your social media feed, there are a lot of pictures of cats
Yes,
and also softball. Those are the two things that I pulled away from that. What's important to you outside of coffee? I mean, outside of this world, do you even have time for another life? It seems like you're very involved in coffee as it is.
I am very involved in coffee. That's very true. But I do play slow pitch, which if you look on my Instagram feed, it's there as well. So that's a big part of what I do outside of coffee. I go to yoga as well. That's important when you're traveling so much all the time. It's important for that mental health, self care. And then, yes, I have a cat as well. Uh,
The thing I noticed was that, and I just kind of, I think I'm getting this vibe from you, but your softball team has been together for quite some time.
yes,
It seems like you really gravitate towards making connections that stand the test of time. I really appreciate that just because our world is so quickly transitioning from thing to thing to thing to thing, and people are always looking for the next thing. And so it seems as if you found a way to kind of slow things down a little bit for you in that vein. I was thinking about, you mentioned how when you were on stage and you were at that first competition with your mom, you were kind of psyching yourself up to continue to go out there. You know, with the experience you've had, there's likely somebody listening who's in the beginning stages of their coffee journey, their coffee career potentially. What advice would you offer them?
go ahead and just do it. I was really lucky to meet somebody kind of in the beginning of my competition career who was like, I want to do these competitions. Do you want to come and do it with me? Or like, let's go try this. And we've done every kind of small competition together. barista league together, like kind of everything. So I was really lucky to have a buddy, kind
Yeah.
of a buddy system for quite a while as well. But the community is so supportive. Obviously, we're all competing. Obviously, everybody wants to win, but everybody wants you to do well as well. Like nobody wants anybody to not do well. If I could see everybody win, like I think most people know me, I'm just here to cheerlead everybody. I'm like, I think that's why I'd be a terrible judge. I just feel like, oh, you did so good. Hey.
Oh, I think I was born to judge. There's nobody that's like the bad guy in Rocky, There's nobody out there just
Yeah.
trying to destroy the other competitors. I never hear that, but I feel there has to be somebody who is like secretly.
Oh.
You can call them out, say them by name on the show. No, I'm just kidding. Is there anything I didn't ask that you want people to know about you, about your coffee effort?
I think we've covered a lot of stuff.
Well, what comes next for you then? The next step in your journey here.
Oh gosh. Honestly, I am really looking forward to a little bit of downtime. I just finished a really big trip for work. Like you said, I've been on the go kind of nonstop. So I'm definitely looking forward to kind of doing nothing for a little while.
Do you have the capability to do nothing? Not everyone does. That's not a critique. It's just a knowing yourself question.
I mean, there will be like a lot of yoga probably. So not nothing, but kind of just like more just enjoying being at home. I think anybody who lives in the Pacific Northwest knows that kind of being home in October is pretty nice. Kind of just having that like hibernation month is nice. We've all taken as much advantage of the few sunny months that we have, right?
Yeah, you had to get out.
Now you're coming to that realization that it's going to rain for like 9 months. So I find that giving myself October to like huddle in, recharge, then, we'll figure out what next year has to offer.
Next year, when you hit the road again and you're traveling around and you pop into a cafe somewhere, and let's just in theory say the specialty craft coffee cafe seems to know what they're doing. What are you going to order?
I'm not here to like judge anybody by any means, and I think there's so many that are doing a really amazing job. So I think that lots of people know what they're doing. Like I think there's so many cool things happening. I think you can't walk into a coffee shop like expecting anything. Just kind of go in with an open mind, and just allow that space to show you what it's all about.
A very wise answer, and I feel a little chastised for my commentary there. Stacey, I really just appreciate your time. I know that you've got a lot going on, and since meeting you, I've learned a little bit more about your path just by following along and seeing all the things. And I can say that having met you, you did not introduce yourself as Hall of Famer Stacey Lynden, and it's a credit to your willingness to get out and just engage with everyone. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you for having me. It was awesome.
Okay, some quick key takeaways from the podcast today. Very quick, because Stacey offered up so much that my takeaway notes span more than 1,000 words. I'll give you a few here, but be sure to head to roastwestcoast.com to see much more in the newsletter. My favorite takeaway came about halfway through the pod, when Stacey effused that decaf coffee drinkers are the best coffee customers and consumers. They're drinking coffee purely for the enjoyment of the coffee. Companies that offer a high-quality decaf that can stand alongside the caffeinated coffees in terms of complexity and flavor speaks to the pure passion we have for coffee. The process that the beans go through at Swiss Water is organic and chemical-free. It involves a long soak of the coffee beans. I'll share video and links that will actually show you the process in the newsletter. Somewhere out there in the multiverse, there's a Stacey Lynden that is doing anthropology stuff. Thankfully, the coffee industry pulled this version of her into its orbit by offering a competitive outlet and the opportunity to continue learning. She began roasting almost by accident when it was recommended that she visit East Van Roasters, a social enterprise, to help women get out of risky situations. That also produces coffee and chocolate, so basically all the most important things. We covered so much more in this episode, including the importance of finding your fit in the industry, be it a macro or a micro company or somewhere in between. We also talked about the value of data collection when roasting decaf, because the process can impact the color of a roasted bean. According to Stacey, decaf is in the innovation phase right now, and her efforts are part of a wave pushing quality and expectation for decaf coffee forward. She isn't a Golden Bean Hall of Famer for nothing. That's our show for today. Thanks to Stacey for sharing her time and her story. You can find a longer recap in our newsletter at roastwestcoast.com, and be sure to click the links directly to Stacey's Instagram and the Swiss Water Decaf website in this podcast's show notes. It really helps us if you also tap those follow buttons and give us a few stars on whatever platform you're listening to the show on. I've always believed the best way to support the creation of Coffee People is to tell a friend about us. You can share this episode or share one of our newsletters from roastwestcoast.com. I'm always telling my friends about Roastar Coffee Packaging, found online at roastar.com. They're our presenting sponsor, and they'll help you tell the big story of your small business. They've certainly helped us do so. They've been an incredible support, enabling us to develop this platform where we share stories of other coffee people. And right now, they have a pretty impressive new design lab for anyone looking to DIY their package. I've mentioned it before, and I strongly believe in working with great graphic designers, but if you're not quite ready for that, the Design Lab on roastar.com is an excellent place to start. This show is also supported by our other industry partners, Zumbar Coffee and Tea, Maria Coffee, Cape Horn Green Coffee Importers, Crossings Coffee, Hasea Coffee Source, Ignite Coffee Company, Ascend Coffee Roasters, Me and My Uncle Coffee, Craft 42 Roasters, Relative Coffee Company, and Cozy Canine Coffee. If you haven't already, please head to relativecoffeeco.com. You'll find links in this show's podcast notes and in our newsletter, and buy the Yeah No Yeah coffee that actually supports this show. We really appreciate it. And it's really good frickin' coffee. Excuse my language, but it's a blend of Colombia and Ethiopia, and I've been drinking it pretty much every day, on top of all the other coffee that I'm drinking. Thank you to you for listening and sharing this podcast, asking questions, and being coffee curious. I hope that you're getting a chance to relax and just chill out for a minute this week, but if you are doing some last-minute holiday travel and desperate for content, stay tuned. We dropped a second episode today featuring Andy Kleitch from Atomo Coffee, the coffee produced without the coffee bean. There's a lot to unpack there. This show, the Coffee People Podcast, is part of the Roast West Coast Coffee Network, and this episode has been written, produced, researched, and recorded by me, Ryan Woldt. Wherever you find yourself today, I hope it's with a fine cup of coffee. Thank you for listening to us share the stories of coffee people. Cheers, everyone. Hey everyone, this is Ryan, the host of the Coffee Smarter and Coffee People podcasts. If you get a second and you happen to be looking for a great coffee gift this year, check out the Simply Good Coffee Brewer. You're going to find links to that brewer directly in the podcast show notes and in our newsletter, where you'll also find a very in-depth coffee brewer review. I've used my Simply Coffee Brewer 500, 700 times. I've stopped counting, to be honest. But it's a lot, and it's regularly, and I push it to the limits. And it's been consistently making great coffee. We don't promote things on this show that we don't believe in, so it's easy for me to suggest the Simply Good Brewer. And if you click the links in our podcast notes or on our newsletter, we actually get a little bit of support back from that, which we appreciate because it helps us keep producing this show. Whether you get one or not, I certainly appreciate you listening and checking out the Simply Good Coffee Brewer. Cheers, everyone. If you are in the early stages of your coffee journey, we want to support you. Check out the Coffee Smarter Education podcasts. Coffee Smarter is designed to enable coffee drinkers to brew a better cup of coffee at home. And Coffee Smarter Pro covers industry-specific topics for baristas, roasters, shop owners, and aspiring coffee professionals. You'll find both shows on your favorite podcast platforms or on our website at coffeesmarterpodcast.com.